Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. Now, I put a poll up the other day basically asking if you wanted me to kind of go through what I refer to as my classic builds. So builds that I might not have touched since like 1.15, 1.17 and update them to kind of the current updates, as well as kind of bringing in some new builds and some more unexpected builds that I use that might not be the quickest but are still a whole heap of fun. So 94% of you said yes, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off with a two build video, basically building two of the Group 2 machines, being the Lexus SC430 and the 08 NSX. So we're going to go for the Lexus first. This is a Lexus SC430 GT500 from 2008. It costs 800,000 credits from the Lexus dealership, and overall you're getting a pretty decent car. This is the more average price for all of the Group 2s, and yeah, you'll probably see this price a lot. There is a few exceptions, but I'll kind of note it in terms of, you know, why they may cost more and such. So I built this one almost like I built the Mercedes. So you're going to run the racing hards. This is going to be a running trend for most of these Group 2s. In terms of body height at the front, you want it at 55. I've got the rear set to 75, which gives it a nice rake angle, and I just feel like it suits the car a lot more. Again, these Group 2 cars seem to bottom out if you kind of put it a little bit too low at the rear. In terms of anti-roll bar, it's 4 at the front and 8 at the rear. Damping ratio compression is 30 and 35, with the expansion being 35 and 45. Natural frequencies 4.25 and 4.65. Negative camber angle is 1.7 and 2.5, with the toe angle being 0 and 0.15. Now, in terms of the differential, you've got the fully customizable by default. So initial torque is 524 for the acceleration sensitivity. That's a sweet spot just for me. And braking sensitivity is 5. Fully customizable race transmission installed on this and set to 250. Again, we're going for a more acceleration grip build with this one. And then if you just look up a little bit, we've got the ballast and the ballast positioning. So it's going to be 2 ballast and a 5 positioning towards the rear. No power restriction on this one. However, we are going to have the fully customizable ECU, and we're going to limit the output to around about 77. This is again a nice sweet spot, and we're going to counter that with a medium RPM turbo. Downforce at the front is 550, and then at the rear it's 850, giving you max downforce at the rear end, and it will stop it spinning out so easy. Again, like I said, we've got the medium RPM turbocharger. Nothing else on this build needs changing. Feel free to pause at any moment you want. So like with a Mercedes build, I'm going to basically describe what I kind of aim to do with this car, and then we'll kind of get into the strategy that you should run with it. Since the strategies have changed, obviously we've had a lot of kind of fuel changes and tyre wear changes since I originally did these builds, I believe back in like May or June of last year. So I went for a full grip build, high downforce and, you know, very fast acceleration. I feel like it really does suit Sardinia. You're going to find this car's very maneuverable, very kind of lightweight feeling, whether you're on wheel or controller. So just like the CLK, we've gone for that same kind of style of build. I would probably say this is my favourite over the two of them, and it's a lot cheaper as well. Obviously the Mercedes being 6.5 million and this only being 800k. I honestly feel like the price difference and the pace and such is definitely kind of favouring me more towards this Lexus. Now, it isn't overall one of the strongest Group 2s, in fact it's probably one of the weaker ones, but when tuned correctly I feel like you can get into a really nice flow and get those lap times really low in comparison to the Mercedes, which I feel takes a bit more getting used to, but that's just my honest opinion. So since the strategies have changed so much for these cars, you know, since the fuel and the tyre updates and such, yeah, I'm going to quickly skim through the strategies for both cars in this build guide, I guess. There will be two of them, like I said. We'll have the Honda up straight after the Lexus. That's because I feel like they're not really worth their own full video. I feel like kind of just mixing them in together is a bit of an easier way to go. So you want to go fuel mix 6 to begin with, do a single pit stop, and then essentially just turn the engine up to full. That's because I feel like if you over fuel it and run it in fuel mix 1 last off, it does drink less fuel in the higher sort of, you know, fuel modes than the Mercedes did yesterday. So I do feel like you can really get away with running higher fuel modes, especially last off. So realistically, with this car, you want to take the lead between about lap 3, lap 4. At this point, you're pretty much just going to run away from the AI. They will have to pit more than you, and they are a lot slower than you. So don't worry about them. Once you've took the lead, you're pretty much golden. Now we are going to take our first and only pit stop at the end of lap 9, going on to lap 10. I do recommend taking a set of hard tyres for this build. That's because I feel like once the tyres start to drop off, you feel it a lot more in the Lexus than you do the likes of the Mercedes. But you know, it's not too bad, but there's definitely more of a feeling there with this build than when the Mercedes got right to the end of its tire life before it kind of, you know, started giving you that feeling that, okay, these tires are pretty much gone. So I do recommend taking a new set of tires. I recommend putting the fuel in all the way to the top. Ignore the notch. It's never really too accurate. At this point, we're going to turn the engine up after doing one more lap at fuel mix 6. When you come out the pits, just be aware that the AI will come absolutely hauling down there, and they're not afraid to go into the back of you. And I thought I'd just keep this clip in, but cold tires straight out of the pits, and we're going to have one and only off of the race. So it happens to all of us. It's going to, you know, take a few seconds off of the overall run, but it kind of is what it is. We are going to be turning the engine up pretty soon, and we don't really have to worry about, you know, kind of just dawdling around or getting heat into the tires or anything like that. So as you can see, lap 11, I've turned the engine up, and we're pretty much golden till the end of the race. You shouldn't need to do any fuel saving at this point. Just go flat out. So I got my fastest lap of the race on lap 14, so I'm just going to talk you through it. I'm not really going to do this with the Honda because I feel like it's very kind of similar in terms of, you know, how to run it. So you're looking between the 100 to the 50 board to get down on the brakes, go into gear 2 and go through that really tight left-hander. After that, you want to go flat out through here. You may have to lift if you're on more used tyres, but you should be good for full throttle. I recommend going down into second and short shifting up to third before going down into first gear and short shifting again back into second and going back up the gears for this bit of an awkward left-hander up here. So this left-hander up here is an absolute nightmare for me. I feel like I'm constantly like skimming against that wall and then sometimes slapping the outside barrier. But in this car, I do recommend gear 3 through there. You're going to go full throttle up the hill. You'll probably end up topping out around about 159 to 160 up here. So you will be hitting that speed limiter. You're going to look for the 100 board, get down on the brakes nice and late and get into gear 1. You want to then try and short shift it out of the corner, because if you do put the power down a bit too aggressively, you're going to notice the rear end will be, you know, kind of kicking out on you. Now through here you can go full throttle, and then I recommend lifting and going down a few gears. I recommend either gear 3 or 4 for that one. Back up the gears nice and early and looking for the 50 board before getting back down to gear 1. Again, short shifting up to keep your grip on the exit of the corner and flat out to the finish line at this point. This is going to give us a really quick and decent lap time. As you can see, I went a little bit wide through there, little mistake. We got in the slipstream of the BMW. Luckily we didn't run into any AI to absolutely destroy our lap time, so 136.2 there with the engine turned up to the max. We're going to finish the event nice and easy in first place. Now the majority of those kind of rules and your braking zones and that apply for, well, most of the Group 2s. It's very similar. The usual kind of change you'll see is what gear you take corners in, with, you know, the gear ratios being a little bit different from car to car. So that is the Lexus method done. We'll check out our overall time, which was a 25:45.923. Obviously this used to be a 0 stop build, but it's now a single stop build. We did the fastest lap on lap 14 of a 136.246. Nice and straightforward, to be honest, and I feel like although all these cars have kind of took a nerf since originally with having to pit and stuff, but overall they've not really took too much of a nerf. I much prefer them in their 800 trim than I would doing them in like 700. I feel like they get far too nerfed then and don't really feel like they should. So overall this should be a nice little grip build for you. 727,500 and even a 6-star roulette ticket. Shame it's a parts one. So there we have it. That is the Lexus build done. Let me know what you think of this one. I feel like this has always been kind of one of my favourite money grinding cars. I've not used it in the longest time, really. Ever since the Escudo came, I've not really ran anything at Sardinia. But recently I've been kind of in a grinding mood, obviously with an update possibly coming out. So I thought, do you know what? I may as well just go back and, you know, try out some of my classic builds, because I feel like some of those were really enjoyable, but some have either been, you know, drop PP or they've gone right up. This was one that I believe when I got to it was around about 840, so I've had to nerf it a lot more than we used to have to. So up next we'll have the Honda NSX, the 2008 model. Now at the time or previous time of doing all the Group 2 money methods, I kind of ranked them and I found the Honda to be the best of the bunch, mainly because I loved how it drove, it sounded amazing, and it really was kind of quite a lively build. It was more prone to spinning at the rear, but I feel since the latest updates, it's definitely took the biggest nerf of the bunch in terms of all the Group 2 cars. So I don't recommend this build over the Lexus, but if you want to try it, I'm going to include it anyway, hence why it's kind of just a little bit of a bonus build. So we're not going to go through too much of this one. I'll go through the initial build where you can buy it from and kind of give you my thinking when it came to actually building it, and then we'll quickly go over the strategy. There's not really much difference. I do find, however, this car is actually better on its fuel than any of the other Group 2s that I've currently, retuned back up. So yeah, it was kind of bizarre to see it be really so good on fuel. So again, you can buy this one from the Honda dealer this time. Again, the price is $800,000, and I feel like overall it's a solid feeling car, but I genuinely think it's probably the best looking of the bunch. I don't know why, just this model of NSX with its GT500 body kit on is absolutely stunning in my opinion. So let's go and get into how to build this car. Like I said, it is the weakest, so just note that, but if you want to try it, it's going to be there for you anyway. So again, we're going to run the racing hard tires on this one. Again, like I said, it's going to be a bit of a running theme. I used to run this on mediums and do a few more pit stops, but overall I prefer running it this way now. In terms of body height, it's 55, 65, anti-roll bars 4 and 6. Compression is going to be 30 and 35, with the expansion being 35 and 40. Natural frequency is going to be 3.75 and 4.0 at the rear. Negative camber angle 2.5 at the front and 3.0 at the rear, with a toe angle at the front being 0 and 0.13 at the rear. Now in terms of the fully customizable differential, it's going to be 20, 27 and 5, so a little bit different from the other Group 2s. We've also got the fully customizable racing transmission, and I feel like I did have the gearing set a little bit too high at 290, so feel free to turn those down, but that's what I've gone for. We've got the fully customizable ECU and I've turned it down to 74. Downforce is a little bit different on this one, so it's 567 at the front and 849 at the rear. Medium RPM turbocharger to try and counteract the nerf of this car. Nothing else needs changing. So this build was probably one of the more tough ones to do. I found when I was originally building it that the rear end would just completely float out through some of the slower corners, or if you enter just a little bit too quick, then just feel like it wasn't even in contact with the road surface. So it was a really difficult one to build. Like I said, originally it was one of my favorites, and I used to do the kind of faster medium strategy, but since the latest update I feel like this one's took the biggest nerf of the bunch and is genuinely the weakest one that I've actually tried so far. I still have some others to build, so maybe that'll be kind of, I guess, changed as we go through these Group 2 cars again. But yeah, overall I feel like the Honda's really not as worthy as the likes of the Mercedes or the Lexus, especially. But overall, I tried my best to kind of keep it in line. I feel like you can get a higher top speed out, but I do feel like the gears might just be a bit too high for this build. So you can turn the overall top speed from 290 down to about 250 in line with the others if you wish to do so. So yeah, let's get into the strategy. We're just going to skim over this one. Again, fuel mix 6 to begin with. Work your way through the AI. Now, like I said, I feel like the fuel consumption in this one is the best of the bunch so far. I managed to absolutely stretch it out a lot further than I did with the likes of the Lexus or the Mercedes, but that's really where the advantages end. I feel like it's much slower on its one lap pace. It's a lot more difficult to just throw through the corners with that rear end, sometimes beginning to feel like it starts floating or it will start skidding but regain grip at the same time. It's really an awkward build, so I do recommend pitting in either lap 10 or lap 11. I'm going to do mine at the end of lap 11, right when my fuel's about out, and then I'm going to put a new set of tyres on. Again, it's a lot worse on its tyre wear than any of the other cars. I feel like it really just chews through them. You feel the drop off a lot quicker, but I do recommend then filling the car up at least over the notch or all the way, whichever one you want to do. If you're being lazy, just let the bar fill up and then it will automatically take off for you. At that point you're going to essentially turn the engine up, which is really where the performance are. I feel like this car doesn't like to run in fuel mix 6. It doesn't suit it, but again, with the kind of build we've gone for, we pretty much have to run it at fuel mix 6, or we'd have to pretty much nerf the car even more, and I feel like it'd be an even worse build if we were taking even more power away from this car. So again, whilst it's still grippy, it does feature a few little problems until you put it in Fuel Mix 1 and it just feels absolutely perfect. We did get a little slap off the AI there, and we did manage to keep it going. So again, the same corner and another mistake with these Group 2s. I feel like I'm a little bit cursed in that sense. But yeah, I mean, there's a massive difference between running it in Fuel Mix 1 and Fuel Mix 6. You'll probably be a lot more comfortable on the second stage of the run, but we are going to finish first place again, nice and easy. But I just feel like this is a much weaker build than the Lexus. So we'll go through the usual, we'll go through, you know, the fastest lap and our overall time to really just compare them to the Lexus. We had a bit of a little off, which is again going to take a few seconds off, but it's not going to be as much as it did to the Lexus. So as you can see, it is a slower build with a 26:19.107 with a fastest lap of a 1:38.051. So there's quite a big difference in terms of your lap times. But like I said, this car does feel more comfortable running at Fuel Mix 1 than it does kind of Fuel Mix 6, so I might kind of go back to this at some point and try and find an even quicker build, but I feel like, you know, it's quite difficult to do so with the Group 2s. You can't really glitch the PP really down, so you can go for faster tyres and such. But again, it's going to be 727,500 with a clean race bonus. Nice and easy, to be honest. And I've already got my daily roulette card for that. I believe I got a 3-star. But yeah, there we go. That is the Honda build. That is the Lexus build, as I continue going through some of my classic builds to update them to current standard, as well as bringing you some new ones, and as we kind of run up to January's update, which will more than likely happen. I'm pretty much guaranteeing it. So hopefully this does help you, and it hopefully gets you using different builds within the grind of Gran Turismo. There's nothing worse than just running the same car, suffering from burnout and getting bored and pretty much giving up with the game. So I find this is the best ways to do them. Let me know what you think of the Honda as well. I'm not quite sure on it. Let me know if you can, you know, find any improvements anywhere with it. But that Lexus I would fully recommend. So that's going to be it for today's video, a 2-for-1 special in terms of builds and guides. So yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications on, and everything that you need is down in the description down below. I'll see you all later, guys. Take care. Peace.